All right, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for coming. It went from nice to hot in minutes and wet to sort of dry in days. So, thinking of everyone who's having any issues. Roll call, Mr. Lombard.
Holm.
Yes.
Odie. Saxer.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Bell.
All right, if there are no changes to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve it as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. No conflict of interest, disclosure, or waiver requests this evening takes us to our community input, and I don't see anyone here for presentation. Takes us to financial items, bills and claims. Mr. Lombard.
Second meeting of June, I always try to present as many bills as I can to clear up the year end. $950,000 of general fund and bills. Of that, $881,000 is the transfer of credit card receipts from the general fund into the food service fund. So that's the main majority of that bill. $950,262, and then there's $770 of food service bills.
Thank you. If there are no questions on the bills and claims, I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. General Business Administration Report, Superintendent Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple items to update the board on here this evening. As previously communicated, we are working through our strategic planning process. We are going to be spending the summer and the fall vetting that respective feedback data, et cetera. So folks can expect to hear more about that here as we get into the fall. And then I would anticipate an approval in that December range. And again, that's so that we can line up our 5-year strategic plan to BV Vision 2040, and then it naturally flows over the course of the next couple decades. Budget process, just would let you know that at our July board meeting, we will hold our public budget hearing and take potential action. Number of policy items that we're going to be working through. We had our discussion at our first meeting in June. Our first reading will be here. Our discussion was last meeting. And then we'll look to have our second readings and action at our next meeting. We do have one policy specifically that we may have to go back and revisit after we tweak it. As I'll speak to that in a little bit, but beyond that, that should clean up those respective policies. Our East Side Elementary School will be communicating with a naming committee here over the course of the next couple weeks, or assembling that and working through that respective process. We'll be releasing bid specs there in early July, opening them in August, and then hope to award a bid at your first meeting in August, on August 12th, with the project being completed in June of 2026. Open for the 26-27 school year. Special thank you to Siouxland Library and Pizza Ranch of Brandon for their work with our summer reading program, and would certainly encourage all of our kids to get out and be leisure summer readers. And then lastly, it's almost the 4th of July, so that means that we start thinking about next school year already. I would just note that our academic calendar is out and available for our public. August 21st is the first day of school for all students grades 1 through 12, and then Friday the 23rd is the first day for our junior kindergarten and kindergarten kiddos, with them doing their family visits on that Wednesday and Thursday. First day of early childhood is Friday, August 26th. Would certainly entertain any questions you have at this point in time, but other than that, I'll go through policies when we get there.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Larson. All right, with that, we will go on to board policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there is a large number of these respective items. I will scoot through them. So Section A Again, very minor cleanup language in AFE, just eliminating the North Central Association, which used to be an accreditation that folks used. Section B, again, we're talking about very simple cleanup items. So to employ certified and classified personnel would be the example of that. BCBA is the organizational meeting that I spoke about. That's just, we added publishing all required annual notifications as a catch-all. Compensation and expenses in BHD, simply an elimination as it's not provided. Section C, this is an item I guess I would just note. Prior, we had our organizational chart included in the policy book, and what I would like to do is I created some policy verbiage that basically outlines that we have an organizational chart. It's a vertical organizational chart that it shows the employee relationships in terms of reporting. And the reason that I'd like to do this language and then just house the structural chart at the office is it changes as we grow and as certain programs get bigger and you add staff, you rearrange things. So that would be my approach to the respective organizational chart. Of course, the school board would be directly involved in approving any position that's put on that organizational chart. So just an item to note. CDE, this is our AED policy, just some simple cleanup language, eliminating the specific locations, but rather adding that they're in a prominent common area. And the reason for that is we've been adding them, so we don't just have one, we'll add them as we can and we should. So that would be that respective item. Into section D, expense reimbursements. This just gets cleaned up with this legislative session this last year that adopted the one standardized rate. It will certainly be an additional expense, as Mr. Lindbergh and I have chatted about, but that's what that does. It just establishes the reimbursement at the rate established by the Bureau of Finance and Management. The school properties disposal procedure, that just simply, again, is reflective of the statutory change. Section E is the AED policy. Section FB in terms of facility planning, again, just a real minor strike with an as necessary added. GBBA is again the AED item. School calendar year, IC, again, very minor strike. All we did is struck the number of instructional hours because the instructional hours are different for different grade levels. So just saying the instructional hours in accordance to law covers your bases there. So I would suggest doing that. A lot of the attendance center jazz is just associated with the change in structure and the respective buildings. Open enrollment. This is one I do just want to touch base on very quickly because there is an item that we are striking and I want to explain why. Where did you go? Whoops. Okay, so this would be a practice that other schools have been utilizing or have utilized, and it's when the appeal of an open enrollment denial out of the superintendent's office occurs because the board grants administrative regulation and authority through other policy. They put the appeal directly to circuit court as opposed through the Board of Education. So that's a policy change that I guess I just wanted to note. And then also in the open enrollment and then criteria for allowance, I wanted to get in and specify right here. We are striking this respective paragraph, and I'd like to explain why. So this paragraph speaks, request for open enrollment for students who wish to continue attending the Brandon Valley School District when there is a change in resident district will be recommended for approval since they are already included in the class size numbers. The continuity of instruction is an important overriding consideration in these instances. Okay, so example. Child A is attending an elementary school, and they are receiving special education services. The capacity at that school is already over the number to allow for open enrollments. Okay, so we're already at capacity in that building. They apply for open enrollment. The building principal recommends to me, because I make the decision, they recommend to me that the child continue. I deny those because you are already over capacity and you are already in a situation where you may have resident students that you're required to serve in accordance to FAPE, a free appropriate public education. You have to serve them. So it becomes a real quandary when you find yourself in that respective situation. And the verbiage gives folks a sense that if they leave, if they move out of the district, but they've been here and they apply for open enrollment, they're guaranteed a spot here. Well, that is not the case, because if our special ed number is already like over the capacity number, for example, it's a 25 kiddo caseload, point caseload, putting another kid on that caseload would already take you over capacity. So that is my reasoning for striking that respective language, is it does create a sense that they are allowed to stay, but the recommendation is actually coming from the principal to the superintendent. It's not the superintendent makes the recommendation, the superintendent makes the decision, if that makes sense. So capacity is a real challenge and issue, especially with special education, because it changes and you don't know what's going to move in. And I would also remind everyone that in the budget presentation that you previously saw, we'll look to supplement this year's special ed budget, and next year's special ed budget is not in good shape. So when we have conversations or we hear about people that are upset regarding an open enrollment denial related to special education capacity, the bottom line is it is very challenging and very tight. So that's what that respective tweak is. And then the student absences and excuses, those are just directly aligning to what our current practice is in terms of exemptions, excused, unexcused. All right. Facility use policy. This specific policy is the one that I wanted to speak to and just reference that we may need to come back and visit it here a bit in the future. But big things associated with this are the tobacco and nicotine verbiage really gets cleaned up, and basically it's no tobacco use, no nicotine use, no anything use, school property, all things included. All right. So this verbiage here, so I have received a request from the adult volleyball group requesting a consideration to policy change regarding spectators at their event. Currently, I've been communicating with a gentleman there. Mr. Hurd is going to provide me with a starting point of what they would like to potentially see, and then we'll vet that and have some additional conversation and run that through administration, and then see exactly where it comes. But we wanted to get this this other stuff cleaned up so that we were all said and done for the start of the school year. Their business doesn't start until a little later in the fall, so we have a little bit more time. But I am awaiting their proposed policy suggestion. Yep. And then the only other item in this that I wanted to just really draw your attention to was, so Mr. Jordan Paula, he is an assistant principal, and when Mr. Brick left. If you can remember correctly, we added an assistant principal, not hiring the community ed theater director. But at that point in time, we put Mr. Paul in charge of facilities. So Mr. Schleckaway got an additional assistant principal, but then he also took on the facility component. And this was a recommendation from him in terms of utilizing a tiered system with the fee structure. So basically strike that prior paragraph and then outline 3 different tiers. One tier is no fee. The second tier is a reduced rate and/or custodial charge, and then tier 3 is the custodial and facility use fees that get charged. So that was the recommendation of Mr. Paula. After listening to some of the challenges that he's faced in his work, I think that it will help support him in his efforts. Fees did change roughly double. I mean, they were very, very low. They hadn't been addressed for a number of years. See here, not quite 10, but close to it. So those fees ultimately were adjusted, and we'll go from there. But that is a policy that we may be revisiting after we get through our initial process, if that makes sense. And the last policy in section L is again just minor cleanup language associated with the North Central Association. No action is necessary. Would certainly field any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Superintendent Larson? All right, thank you very much. Takes us to our items under general business. I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 3, please.
So move.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Personnel items, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 11, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 12 is information only. Takes us to our communication section. There are a couple thank you notes there for the Board of Education to review. Takes us to our formal board reports. Does anyone have a board report they would like to report on this evening?
I would just remind real quick, if you have time in August to attend the ASBSD National Conference or State Conference, let Jennifer know and she can get you registered.
Assistant Nutrition Director, Mrs. Eddy, and I will be attending the national conference in Boston, July 13th through the 17th, so excited for that.
And you'll be on the phone.
And I'll be on the phone. I guess I'll be on the, no, I will be on the phone, so. As far as Teach Well, everything seems to be going well there. We are looking very good financially. I think we've made some real strides in the last couple of years as far as streamlining and some lean processes, and it's growing, so, and more people wanting to send their students our way, so that is good. Anyone else have any reports tonight? All right, if not, that takes us to the end of our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.